Okay, everybody. So welcome, hello, and thank you so much for coming to the Summer Reading Brainstorm webinar, part 2, because we find ourselves in unusual circumstances, and it's nice to share and learn from each other and get support from each other as we all navigate these new waters. My name is Amelia. I am the lifelong learning librarian at the Montana State Library. And just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded. It will be posted on Vimeo, and the slides will be shared with you. I will put the slide share link in the Vimeo description and send that out to you all, so you'll be able to access it afterwards. Please do make use of the chat box. If you can't find the chat box, it's in your Zoom activity bar. And you can just click on that and it will show the chat box off on the side of your screen. I mentioned this earlier, but you can actually save the chat box. If you look in the chat box above the type message here where you can write whatever text, there is an ellipse menu next to the file button. So if you click on that ellipse more menu, it gives you some options, and there is a save chat option. So you can do that at any point in the webinar and save the chat transcript. You know, feel free to also unmute yourself if you are comfortable with that, but you can also just type in the chat box, and both Cindy and I will keep an eye on the chat box and bring up whatever points people are making. So cool. So for today's agenda, hopefully you all can see my screen as well. And hopefully I can navigate down on my screen. It might not let me. Oh, there you go. A few things that we wanted to talk about were some CSLP updates, the Collaborative Summer Library Program. They came out with some more information as well as a few more resources that we all can use, which is great. I also wanted to talk about ReadSquared and give you some updates there. ReadSquared is the online reading tracking software that we are hopefully going to sign the contract for soon, so we can all start using it. And then just some virtual programming ideas, summer programming ideas, just a time for us all to talk and discuss. So again, at any point in time, this agenda is not meant to be prescriptive. You can pretty much bring up whatever points you want to bring up and have us all discuss it, but just to give us a brief outline. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was CSLP. And CSLP, since I know that we actually have some new people on the call, is the Collaborative Summer Library Program. It's a consortium of libraries from all around the country that work together to create a cohesive theme each year for summer reading and provides resources and support for summer reading in public libraries.
At very low cost.
At very low cost. Yeah, I didn't realize, Cindy, that our membership dues were
so small.
Yeah. I was like,
because it's based on how many public libraries you have. And in big picture, Montana, I know 80 whatever seems like a lot, but we don't really have as many public libraries as a lot of other states. So
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So in case you didn't know, all public libraries in Montana are members of CSLP. So you don't have to use it, but that option is there if you would like to use any CSLP resources. And their biggest resource beyond the theme and the beautiful artwork that they create each year is the Summer Reading Online Manual, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I do have a poll open. So if you want to go ahead and vote on that poll, it's just asking about what aspects of CSLP you all have used. So I'll give you maybe one more minute to fill that out, and then I'll end the poll so we can take a look at that.
I'm not seeing the poll.
Cindy, did you already vote?
No.
Let me see.
Are others seeing it?
Yeah, other people have voted.
Oh,
I think.
excellent.
So, Well, Cindy, maybe you can contribute.
Oh, that's okay. I'm using everything. So
Okay, cool.
just yes, 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 and yes again.
Okay, cool. So I'll give you a couple more seconds to do that. But I wanted to make note that they released an April newsletter, which has some really great information in there. They CSLP has hired a reading champion this year. Her name is Carmen Agradidi, and so starting in June, she will be reading out stories every Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So that's, I know that you all are already providing that to your patrons, but you know, just as another, if they're looking for another story, Carmen Agradidi will be reading that out every Friday. They had some information in the April newsletter also about digital escape rooms, which we had briefly discussed in our last summer reading brainstorm. And they had a few more links and resources on that if you wanted to look at that. And then they also had some podcasts to pair with summer reading, which it could be a great recommendation for some of your patrons, as well as resources on feeding children over the summer. We usually have a summer reading webinar on the summer food program. And I actually have not been in contact with the summer food person to see what they've been doing. So I need to put that on my to-do list. But that still is an option, even with COVID going on, to make sure that children are being fed. And Cindy can talk a little bit more about this, but it's not an automatic no. There are lots of libraries who are doing this and are able to make it work while still being safe and taking the necessary precautions. So I'm sorry. Go
Real
ahead,
quickly,
Cindy.
so I know that you're going to share the poll, but we did finally figure out it's next to the chat icon at the bottom and it says polls, and you can click on that and the poll will pop up.
Awesome. And I did just drop the link to the April CSLP newsletter. I'm going to end the poll now. So you can take a look at that. So let me actually go ahead and share the results. Can you guys see this? The poll results? I've never used polls, so yay! Okay, great. So it looks like most people do have a CSLP account, which is great. Most people have downloaded the CSLP online manual, which is great. And then a lot of people have kept the online manual access code, which is great. So this is a thing, and Cindy and I were talking about this earlier. In order to access the online manual, you have to submit your library name and they'll verify it, and then they'll send you an access code. And each year we pay for about 115 of these. And it's supposed to be each library gets one code. But sometimes people forget to keep their code. And I actually forgot to keep my code many times. That's the main thing you need to remember is when you're accessing the CSLP online manual, you have to keep your code so that you can access it in the future.
And it's a very complicated code.
Yes.
And it's something you will never, ever remember. So once you get that code, write it in about 5 places.
Yes.
So that you have it, because it's really frustrating when you want to go in and access the manual and look for an idea and you can't find the crazy 10-lettered numbered code somewhere.
Yeah. And I wanted to show you, this is the CSLP website. It's just cslpreads.org. And so CSLP has announced that they've actually reworked a lot of the activities in the manual to fit for COVID-19, to allow for, you know, the safety precautions that we all have to take into account. So there's 2 versions of the revised activities. Version 1 is a static PDF. And so they released this at the end of April. And for the static PDF, they will not be updating it beyond the end of April. So that you can access here. You don't have to log in. It's on the front page at this red Summer 2020 Additional Resources in Response to COVID-19 button. And if you click on that, it will download a PDF. And so there's a bunch of information in there already. It's a great place to start. But the manual committee is going to keep on working on things, and they will be releasing new revised activities throughout the summer. So if you want access to that, what you have to do is, also, I'm sorry if you guys can hear that. My cat is it's like hacking up a hairball. It's not me. I swear to God, it's not me. So you can see on my page, I'm logged into my CSLP account. There is a manual downloads tab here, and you can click on the 2020 online manual. I already have my code, so that's where I'm going to go. And if you click on the 2020 online manual, you can see that it is protected. Oh, I think because I already logged in earlier. But normally you would see a enter in your code, and this is where you would put in that code. And you can see up here, this is the code that I have. It's just a bunch of random numbers and stuff. So it's really hard to remember, so you do need to write it down and keep it somewhere. But once you've done that, you can access the online manual, and you can see everything that the manual committee is releasing. And if you go over to the narrow search results over here, there is a Summer 2020 Reimagined. And this is where the revised activities are going to go. So in the future, this is a good place to check back to see what other ideas the manual committee has come up with, and that you can use for summer reading. So I just wanted to go over that to make sure that everybody was aware, oh my God, Pocky, and could visit this later if they wanted to. Any questions on that?
I just recommend everybody give it a look, because they've worked really hard and they've looked at a lot of other good ideas and just added some really interesting things, especially those of us that are going to be making like make and take activities or doing any kind of online programming. They've got some great ideas, and they've taken some of the good ideas from manuals from long ago, like we did a Dragons, Dreams, and Daring Dreams summer reading program, like, oh my gosh, 15 years ago. And yeah. So anyway, there's just a lot of good information.
Yeah, and Beth asked, Amelia, one publication is complete and will not be edited. Which one is that? And that is the PDF that is on the main website. So if I just go back to, I have to navigate through many screens. If I just go back to cslpreads.org.
And you know, this is a good question that Beth just brought up, but a lot of us are youth people, some are adult like Beth. If you have somebody else in your library that's going to be doing summer reading program for teens or for adults, please share this information with them. Yes. They may not have come to this webinar today, but if you would be the sort of summer reading liaison with the rest of your staff, that would be great.
And I am more than happy to meet with anybody and talk about summer reading. I can walk people through things. I can show them all the resources that are out there. I'm happy to give whomever context and whatever support they might need. So please don't feel hesitant to refer anybody to me. I love talking with people. So, you know, we can do that however would work best. Okay, so let me go ahead and move on to our next screen. This is a quick ReadSquared update. So if your library is interested in using ReadSquared for summer reading, you are more than welcome to. The State Library Commission has approved up to 40 libraries to use ReadSquared for the next 2 years. So if you do sign up, we do want you to use it for 2 years just to try it out. And we'll be evaluating ReadSquared each year to see if we want to renew at the end of 2 years. But this could be really helpful for summer reading. It's an online reading tracking program. It's very customizable. And there's a lot of different options that you can use to make it fit your summer reading program. So the contract is not yet signed, and we're hoping to do that soon, but we're not able to schedule any training or anything yet. But once the contract is signed and we're able to do that, I wanted to give you all a heads up what the training would look like. So there's going to be one in-person group training that it's recommended you attend to show you the basics of how to use ReadSquared. ReadSquared will give us 4 or 5 options that you all can choose from. Because I was like, scheduling 40 libraries for one session is not feasible. So they're going to give us 4 or 5 different time slots. And they'll do the same training at each time slot, and you can choose which one works best for your schedule. So there's that general training that they're going to do, and then they're also going to open up their tutorial and self-paced learning video collection. And so that will go through specific functions and features of ReadSquared, so you can sort of pick and choose which things you want to learn how to use. They also do additional training if there's anything else that you have questions on. So they're really, really great in terms of support and what they're willing to offer. So any questions that you have, you're more than welcome to reach out to them directly. And if enough people reach out to them about something, they'll schedule another training for us, they said. So in general, I think you should plan on maybe 4 or 5 hours at least for watching the training and playing around with things, just to give you all a general idea of what setup might look like. And also just to be patient with yourselves when we're all learning how to use this. I think ReadSquared is like it doesn't have a super steep learning curve, but there is a bit of a learning curve from the reviews that and the people who we've talked to. So just be aware of that and try to be patient. And in general, they say it becomes pretty easy to use. A few things that you might want all to consider thinking about are, will you be giving out prizes? There are ways for ReadSquared to track progress and to let people know, oh, you've reached a milestone and now you can come to the library to get a prize or something like that. So see if that's something that you're interested in and what you want your milestones to be. Thinking about whether you want to track minutes, pages, or books read, that sort of thing. ReadSquared has games that are available, so thinking about when you want to make those available to your patrons. Some libraries have opened it up just when people sign up and register. Some people open up individual games when people reach certain reading milestones. There's also a missions option, so beyond just reading, you can include fun challenges and missions for your patrons, such as identify a plant today and take a picture, and they can upload the picture into the app, or make your own book cover and submit that, or something like that. So I think they have a bunch of example ideas, and there's a ton of ideas out on the internet as well, but that's just something to consider. And then also publicity. How are you going to help your patrons sign up? I think it'd be good to start thinking about a publicity plan and how you're going to advertise ReadSquared if you're going to use it, how you're going to help people sign up. I'm sure there will be some people who are like, great, awesome, I can put this app on my phone. This is super easy. And then there are other people where that might be a more challenging process. So thinking through those things. And if you have not yet signed up for ReadSquared and you would like to, feel free to let me know in the chat box and I'll follow up with you, or feel free to just send me an email and I'll follow up with you. I will also drop the form into the chat box. Oh, I don't have it up here, so I won't. Never mind. But there is a form that I'll have you fill out to let us know that you're interested. So any questions about ReadSquared? And I'll take 3 deep breaths while you all think about if you have a question or not.
Amelia, is there a library that uses it that we might take a look at? A library system that uses it?
Yes. So the Billings Public Library uses ReadSquared. They've used ReadSquared for the past 4 or 5 years. And I didn't want to overwhelm you all in this webinar, but once we have the contract signed and everything, Kathy Robbins gave me some really, really great recommendations for, like, when you're just starting out, this is what we did, or this is what we wished we had done when we were first starting out to make it easier to begin. So I have a list of those suggestions, but yeah, they have ReadSquared for their summer reading and also for a winter reading program and their 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program. And so they use it for all of those.
And I don't know if it would be helpful, but you know, I've just been to the website and you can just kind of browse around on there. They have some information. I suspect when we get the training, that will be very specific and very detailed. But
Yeah.
if you just are kind of curious as to how it all works, just go to ReadSquared website.
And I do have a webinar, a demo webinar, where they talk through the main features of ReadSquared. So you can watch that. It's about 40 minutes long, and you can see which features you're specifically interested in. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in that, please put your name in the chat box. Just be like, Amelia, webinar, ReadSquared webinar, and I'll follow up with you and send it to you. So. Awesome, Beth. I will send that over. Any other questions? I'm going to take three more deep breaths.
We all will.
Okay, great. And thank you for the people who have expressed interest. I will follow up with you after the webinar today. So the rest of the time here, I just wanted to talk about, oh, Laura had a question. Is the webinar different from the tutorials? Yes, the webinar is different. This is just the webinar I have is just a general demo overview where it talks about, the tutorials are going to be much more from the admin side. So you'll see more of the back end of things and running reports and things like that. The webinar is a little bit more focused on what the patron sees and how you're setting up your program and what that's going to look like. So hopefully that answers your question. Trudy, yes, there still is a cap on the libraries, the number of libraries. It's 40 libraries. Right now, I believe there are 25 libraries that are signed up. So there's still a space. And Angela, the ReadSquared webinar is just a recording. It's a link. So I will just email the link directly to people and you can watch it whenever you want. It's whenever it fits with your schedule. So, and let's see. Emily, if you could put your email address, it just says your first name. And so I want to make sure that I'm sure that I think there's a lot of Emilys in Montana. So if you could just put your email in the chat box, then I'll make sure it's going to the right person. And so this next part is just time for all of us to brainstorm. I've put in a couple of questions on here. So what virtual programming, or not even virtual, but just not directly in-person programming do you have planned? Cindy and I were talking about this, and of course none of us really knows how things are going to turn out in the future, but you know, we thought it was probably a better idea to plan for not in-person programming. You know, it'd be great if COVID disappears overnight and then we can just be like, yay, everything's open again. But that's probably not going to happen. And so to make it easiest and to not have you have to plan for so many scenarios, it just might be better to be like, okay, we're not going to do anything in person and see where we can go from there. So that does mean virtual, but it could also mean like creating craft bags and putting them at the grocery store, and then people can take them from the grocery store.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about earlier is that I think once school finally ends and the weather is beautiful, I'm not sure how many more screens kids and or parents are going to have interest in. And so I think if we can be creative and think about, make and take activities, like a story. We talked about story walks, I think, at another webinar, where you put a book out in, throughout, like next to your library or in a park or something, anything that where people are out anyway somewhere. So you're not clustering people, but you maybe have somebody from your library there in their lovely mask and gloves saying, hi, would you guys like some information on summer reading, or here's some new books we have, or maybe here's a book you can take with you. So think about how you can reach people in a low contact way, but not necessarily. I know we'll be doing some things through screens, but I'm trying to keep the focus a little bit off screens this summer.
Cindy, that's
go on.
That's what we're going to do in Missoula. We are as of June 1st, we're going to every Tuesday and Thursday we're going to the library, as well as one of our partners that is going to join us in the new library. We will have takeaway bags, and then part of that experience, I mean, it's something that they can do at home or wherever it takes them, but there will be an online component only if they want to see how, the craft, let's say, is done, or to, Spectrum is one of our science museum is one of our partners, and they'll have a little science experiment. Well, do you want to see how the science experiment worked for us? Join us online, blah blah blah. But it will definitely be things that they can just take and do and have fun with and remember the library, and when we can say hi.
Where are you doing the takeaway bags?
We are going to be putting a table up in our parking lot.
Yeah.
And that's the same place the food bank is going to do their summer meals.
Yeah.
They've been doing takeaway meals at the food bank here already, and they're going to set up one of their summer meal programs here, or at the library as well, not at my house. And so they'll be there Monday through Friday, and then we'll join them Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we'll all be spread out. So, we won't be right together, and then we'll have the table, and then we'll be a bit back from the table, but we'll be able to answer questions or just say hi or whatever.
We're doing something very similar, and I encourage all of you to find out where there is summer lunches being provided in your community. And if not, boy, oh boy, this would be a good summer to get on that bandwagon. But, they're already offering them outside. There can be, here they do them on campus, at a local park, and at the library. And it's going to be a good way to reach some of those families. And again, if families are coming for the free lunch, often those are the families we're most trying to reach anyway. So what we're doing this spring is, starting next week, they've been giving away lunches Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to all the kids in the community who have been going to school and getting free or reduced lunch. And so we've gotten the okay to give away some of our donations of our children's books at those events. So think about, like Amelia said, even grocery stores, think about places you could go to just sort of say hi, and I'm from the library and I have something for you today.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for sharing. And Marin in Fort Benton said, we are going to be using technology as a tool, not as a base, and we're doing something very similar to Missoula. So that's really great. So I had some questions. What programming ideas do you have planned? What ideas do you want to share? What ideas do you need help with? so feel free to put those into the chat box. Colleen says, I was thinking about a leprechaun hunt activity and posting hints for each day/week about where it is hidden around town. Any advice? That's super cute.
Is the leprechaun a real something they need to find?
A painted rock.
The only thing I have to say is that I've read on some listservs that having an actual thing to find can be a problem, because people will either want to take it or they'll touch it. I don't know. That's just something that has come across my listserv feeds. So and I don't know, I'm trying to think real quick how that could be changed at all.
We've done things where we do scavenger hunts where you take a picture. So I know our teen librarian did things where she would be just, where they could kind of walk around just in a downtown or a park area and look for things and then take a picture of it, check it off, or write down something.
Right.
Yeah.
And we plan on doing that this summer as well, as something for some of the older kiddos and adults to get involved in.
Yeah, I mean, Colleen, it might be good just to include in all the publicity, just like, please take a picture and leave it there. Or you might have like a little sign next to the rock itself being like, take a picture of me, but leave me be, or something like that.
Or have the green rock somewhere where they can't even reach it. Or
have it be big enough where they can't take it.
Yeah, have it be huge so they can crawl on it, but they can't take it.
Yeah. A few other comments. Laura said, I've seen something similar with people putting teddy bears in their windows and doing a drive around bear hunt. Rhea said you could leave shamrocks or gold coin images they could take a picture with. And Beth said, people like the reading logs, which upon completion enters the reader into a raffle for a bookstore certificate. We have those ready for a 2020 adult summer reading. I'd like to try a reading challenge too. And then Benjamin said, creating some take-home activities like fairy tale trivia and Mad Lib games. Ooh, that's great. I loved Mad Libs when I was growing up.
And then I don't know if we talked about this earlier, but if those of you that usually offer prizes, where you have things that they pick when they come into the library, we're going to try something this year where it's read for your community. And so if they read, whatever you'd like to do, 20 books or 50 books or whatever, that we'll look at local businesses that we want to support. So obviously our Country Bookshelf, our local independent bookstore, anywhere else, maybe our local toy store or something, where we'll give them a coupon that they can turn in for a prize at one of our area businesses that we don't want to go away. So it can be kind of a community. Yeah, Rooks would be good too. You're right, Benjamin. So anything that has to do with libraries and play and children and toys and, even your local ice cream store, think local.
And a lot of people
sad about having go away.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing curbside now, especially now that we're in phase 1. So it is more of a potential now than it was before. Christina said, I've done 2 scavenger hunts in the last month where the kids and parents have to take pictures of the found items and send them to me, and it works great. So yeah, Christina, if you have any tips on how to get people to leave the item, feel free to share with us. And also if you want to share the scavenger hunt ideas, that might be super helpful, which actually leads me to, if you can see on this PowerPoint, the MSL Community Forums programming discussion thread. You guys can share this information on the MSL Community Forums. So actually, Ben, you had talked about the Mad Libs games. If you have any ready, you could actually put it into these discussion threads. So you can see they're all labeled COVID-19 library discussion. And there's ones on safety, on collections, on staffing, PR and communications. And then there's also one on programming. So to view the thread, you just have to click into it. And you can see there's already been a few. Laura has commented, which is great. And you can read what other people have said, but this is also where you can reply and attach a file, share anything that you've done that's worked well. So this would be a great place to put some summer reading stuff. And yes, I would love, Benjamin, if you would post whatever you're willing to post in here and share that with people, because I think it would be great. Beth
Ray
had,
says,
oh,
are
sorry.
you going to read that one?
Yes. Well, Beth had said that she wanted to do kindness rocks. So if you want to explain that a bit more. And then Rhea said, we did an indoor hunt on Facebook. My summer ones, I plan to make outdoor scavenger hunts. They're going to be family quests, starting with week 2 of Hero's Journey theme from CSLP.
Ooh, cool.
That's awesome. Rhea, if you would like to share that on the MSL community forums, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then Beth says that kindness rocks are tiny rocks painted with a positive message on trails, left on trails and in parks. That's really cute.
So
yeah,
I'm kind of wondering if this summer, if we could do something like, you know, put out a table and put out rocks and put out some paints and, you know, everything be disinfected and just sort of monitor it, like one child or one family group at a time come and actually do that, or if we just have to give everything away to do later. Guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, definitely for the ones, I think, if you're leaving at it stuff, those are, I think, people make and take, and then they can hide it somewhere or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then there could be a few where staff make, and then that makes up the actual scavenger hunt for kindness rocks or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Take home is a safer option. Yep, Laura, right. Or, you know, if you give it to them and they take it over to the park and put it on a table and do it, then that's out of our hands. But they can just go do it wherever they'd like. That is a good idea.
That could work. Christina said, since our local Easter egg hunt was canceled, my mother and I painted rocks to look like Easter eggs and hid them around town for the library kids to find and keep. That's cute. And you can see that I did stick in the link for the MSL community forum discussion threads. So please do contribute not only to the programming things, but also to the other topics. I mean, really, this is also to help share information, but also to create an archive so we can all look back and be like, what did we do? Well, I hope there's not another pandemic. But if there is, then we'll have a record of what we've all done and the kinds of decisions that we had to make. So feel free to put in any other program ideas or questions that you have. I just want to go through some of these other links on here. In case you missed it, there was a really, really great webinar on Wednesday called Little Hands Signing. Kathy McMillan showed a lot of librarians how to use American Sign Language in story times. And you don't have to be fluent in American Sign Language. It was so fun to learn and surprisingly easy to pick up. And it's just, for me, I was like, wow, there are so many immediate applications you could have for this. So that webinar is on Vimeo. It is only available for 3 months per our agreement with Kathy. So please do check it out when you can. It was super, super great, and possibly another element you can add to your story times right now. And Angela, my young coworker, first time in a library, is already referring to back in the old COVID days. She's such fun. That's great. So let me actually grab that and put that link into the chat box for you all.
And Beth talked about telling your story to the Montana Memory Project. And that, I think, part of our Imagine Your Story summer reading theme would be telling your own story. So Beth, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit, or I know you can go into Montana Memory Project and see more details as well, but.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great idea. And I know that the Montana Historical Society is actually actively looking for testimonial and surveys and information from just average Montanans experiencing COVID, just to see what that's like. They're also creating an archive about it. So that's also another option to share your story. Oops. Let's see. There is also, so the California State Library has actually been compiling a remote resources database, which you can see, where is that link? Over here. So they've been collecting stuff from all over the state and compiling it into this database. So this might just be a good thing to look through if you're like, oh, I'm kind of stuck, I'm not sure what to do. You can take a look here. There's tons to look through and see if anything strikes your fancy. So this is just another resource to kind of help with planning and see what other people might be doing. So I will drop that into the chat box as well. And then Cindy had asked, we can add a link to our website and Facebook page about the Montana Memory Project. Yes, yes, you definitely can. Jennifer would be more than happy if you did that. Let's see. Oh, another thing I wanted to talk about was this virtual events calendar. So this is something that we're actually thinking about doing here in Montana. The Delaware State Library has actually compiled, and you can see it here, one calendar with virtual library events that anyone in Delaware can attend. So I think they coordinated with their public libraries and asked them to share the events that libraries were willing to share beyond their normal boundaries of service. And then they put it all into one calendar. So especially as we're moving into summer reading, and you know, while we did talk about doing things that maybe weren't virtually based, if you still are doing virtual programming and you have a story time or you have a trivia thing that you wouldn't mind other Montanans joining in, we would love for you to submit it to our calendar and have that be available for people to look at. We're still in process of testing different calendar apps. It's been actually a little bit difficult to find something that's free that we can use, but I think we're getting to something, and I'm hoping to announce that sooner rather than later. So please do let me know if you already have programming you'd like to add. It's not just for summer reading, it's for anything that your library is doing that you'd like to share with a bigger audience. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. You can, again, put your name in the chat box and say, interested in the calendar. And I will keep you on my list to send more information about that. And let's see. This last thing that I wanted to show was we got this email about a virtual library comic convention, and I forget what the name of this company is, but basically this company, which I think has a ton of graphic novels, comics, et cetera, in an online format, were open to making it available to us statewide for free for, I believe, 3 months. And I thought it sounded cool, but I was like, hey, I'm about to hop on a webinar with some people in about 30 minutes, and I wanted to see what you thought.
Amelia, say that again. It's available for us for how long?
For 3 months. If I haven't emailed the guy back, but if we do, he said that within 48 hours, we could make this available to anyone in the state for 3 months for free. And at the end of the 3 months, then we could talk about if we wanted to renew and subscribe with them. But yeah, you would have access to ebook versions of graphic novels, comics, and other visual stuff. So I was going to email him back, but I wanted to see if this maybe was of interest to you all. If we wanted to try this out and see.
I don't know how many people are using Hoopla, but I believe, or Canopy, Beth, you would know probably, or Weston, don't we have access to comics on one of those?
Yeah, and I do think that this might have a focus towards teens and kids a little bit, just by looking at the branding and a little bit of what he mentioned in his email. Although I'm sure there are tons of adults who would be more than happy to take advantage of this too.
I do know it's important that when you are looking for comics for kids, that you absolutely limit your your responses to kids. You know, get into some wherever it says where you limit your searches, because boy, there's some really interesting things that pop up if you don't do that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. Then I'll go ahead and reach out to this company and see. I think I need some more details, but they did say for the next 3 months, State Library can have a free trial and have access for anyone in the state. So I will let you know what comes of that. And I think that's all I have scheduled for this presentation. I don't have any more slides. So now if we just want to have free discussion, is there anything else that you all are worried about or maybe even excited about? Some triumphs that you already want to share with us? It's our time to discuss now. And let me see if I've missed anything in the chat. Some people interested in the calendar. Great, awesome. Ah, Trudy. Oh my gosh, that's a great question. The Museum of the Rockies kits. Those are not canceled. They are, I have actually not had a chance to check in with the Museum of the Rockies. The kits right now are split up between 2 locations, but a lot of it actually, I believe, can be sent virtually. It's a lot of files. So I might touch base with Jamie, and then I might just send you what we can send you without the physical objects, if that sounds okay. Because also it's split up between Bozeman and Helena at the moment, the physical objects. So thank you for reminding me, Trudy. Oh my. Carly asked, is anyone thinking of doing a story time in the park or any kind of in-person summer reading program if and when we enter phase 2? Shannon said, currently planning to do our summer reading outside. And Laura said, where can we get a hold of the ReadSquared tutorials? The tutorials we actually don't have access to yet. And we won't get access to that until we get this contract signed. So that I will give you more information on once we have that done. And Christina said, I'm also planning to do summer reading outside. Ben said, we were looking at doing story times and other activities outdoors once programming is approved to resume. Laura says, heck. Cindy says, we will do some outside programming, but we will have to limit numbers, so registration is required, and maybe have families bring a blanket to provide boundaries for families to social distance. Val said, we are still thinking of an in-person program. We might have students pre-signed to limit the attendance. Ken says, our library is not at present considering an in-person program for the summer, but I am hoping we can set up some partnerships with the city for story walks and other distance-friendly programs. Carly says, love the blanket idea. Shannon said, we're a tiny town. I usually have about 10 to 15 kids for summer reading, so it's not a problem. And feel free to put any other questions, or you can actually go ahead and unmute yourself too, if you want to.
I assume everybody is on Wired. And so I think as we come up with ways we're organizing these programs, I mean, there's a lot of logistics that we have to think through. And I find so much inspiration from talking to everybody. Yeah, like Beth, like in a month or so. But anyway, as you come up with how to actually make these things work, if you would either share on Wired or share in Amelia's, the forums, but then post it on Wired that it's there so we know how to find it.
Yeah, I really would encourage you to post it on the forums, because Wired just, it's hard to keep that unless you keep the email,
Yeah.
which,
Agree. So I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think just but letting us know, like, hey guys, check into the forum. Here's the link. There's some great ideas for how to do story times out in the park in this summer or something.
And I think I'm going to follow up with people who have contributed in the chat for this webinar and be like, please submit to the forum. So just be aware. And as Beth said, maybe we could meet again in a month or so. I am more than happy to do that. And if you all are interested in that, I think that would be great. Colleen asked, for craft kits at home, does anyone know if how-to videos or step-by-step pictures work better?
That's a good question, Colleen.
I think it also sometimes depends on the craft.
And the other thing is, if you didn't want to redo the how-to videos, I mean, there's just a ton of stuff out there on, you know, how to make a volcano at home or whatever. So like, I think Pam had said you could have this stuff in the bag and then link it to, here's a YouTube video on how you can do this at home.
Janet said, where do I go to get signed up for Wired? Oh, Janet, Beth just sent directions in the chat box, so you can look up there. Shannon said, step-by-step pictures are easier for the adult because they don't have to look something up online. Very good point. Yeah. Ken says, Colleen, we've been doing some YouTube videos, and I think the main challenge is what you can do well. I don't have any professional equipment at home, so my how-to videos have been not amazing. Christina also says that step-by-step pictures have worked better for my families. And Diane Van Gordon says, how-to videos and step-by-step pictures may depend on what internet service your families have. Some families may not have internet.
That's a really good point. Really good point, Diane, about we want to make sure, I'd say even if you did put in, here's a YouTube video, is also put in something step by step so that you don't have to have internet access.
Also, if you do need to sign off and do something else, feel free to, but you can also save the chat if you would like. So remember, you can go into the chat box. Next to the file button is the ellipse button, and then click on the ellipse button and click save chat, and you can get the chat transcript. Janet says, we are including step-by-step with pictures on our crafts. Beth says, I need to get to the website chat with Jenny Stepp. Yes, that is happening at noon if anyone would like to attend that. Rhea says, maybe have step-by-step directions available, but add a link. Here's the directions or watch this quick video. So that's a great way to have the best of both worlds. And yeah, any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording or stop the recording.